Chapter 120. Yang Feng thought for a moment, then immediately made a prompt decision and said, "All right, I agree." Immediately creating a great warlock rank mechanical battle beast could greatly enhance Yang Feng's overall strength. It would allow Yang Feng to have one more trump card to rapidly expand. After Yang Feng annexed a few principalities, Fernandro Principality would no longer be important to him. After all, Fernandro Principality didn't have a lot of resources. A trifling Satsuma Marquisdom's resources were several times more than it. Lamix gave Yang Feng a bronze-colored ring. Inside this space ring is the corpse of the Moffin demonic polar bear. This space ring was a level 3 secret treasure. It was extremely precious. It was also a treasure that had been passed down in Fernandro family for more than a millennium. Space treasures had always been rare in Tyrandot subcontinent. They were basically in the hands of some formidable existences at level 3 warlock rank and above. Fernandro family had once produced a level 3 warlock. Only then could they possess a space ring. Yang Feng picked up the space ring, swept it with his spirit force and sensed that the space ring was a 10 by 10 by 10 cubic meter medium space ring. Inside the space ring, there was an enormous Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse covered in white fur. The Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse was obviously very well protected. Even though God knows how many years had passed, it still exuded formidable fluctuations of power that couldn't be underestimated. Good stuff. Yang Feng praised, his mind moved and he directly released the Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse, then pressed the dimensional crest on his chest and at once stored the Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse inside the dimensional crest. Euterax's pupils constricted slightly when he saw this scene. Even he, a level 2 warlock from a prestigious family, didn't have a space treasure, yet Yang Feng actually had one. It filled his heart with shock. "Here you go." Yang Feng casually tossed the space ring to Lamix. After Lamix received the space ring, he heaved a long sigh of relief. That was one of Fernandro family's heirlooms. If it wasn't for Fernandro clan reaching a critical juncture, then he absolutely wouldn't offer such a treasure to Yang Feng. Yang Feng casually tossed a dimensional badge towards Jessica. "Since you're my nephew's fiancée, then I'll give you this treasure. There are 5 mechanical golems with battle prowess comparable to level 2 warlocks. Remember to release them to protect your safety." After Jessica received the dimensional badge, she scanned the dimensional badge with her spirit force. After discovering the huge space inside the dimensional badge, a look of ecstasy welled up on her pretty face. She bowed to Yang Feng in salute and said respectfully, "Thank you for the treasure, sir." Euterax glanced at Jessica with envy flashing in the depths of his eyes. The mechanical golems with battle prowess comparable to that of a level 2 warlock. Each one of them was of great use to a level 2 warlock like him. "Euterax, my nephew Yang Feng has received your care in Warlock College Antalya. I hope you like this mechanical puppet." Yang Feng waved his hand. A level 2 bladed troop immediately walked out from the side hall and arrived beside Euterax. The bladed troop's eyes flashed with a red light. A formidable force field comparable to that of a level 2 warlock erupted in a flash, simultaneously activating a level 2 protective cover, completely protecting it. Great! This mechanical golem actually has a defensive force field comparable to that of a level 2 spell. It's truly perfect. Euterax stared fixedly at the level 2 protective cover. His eyes flashed with fanaticism and he repeatedly praised. For warlocks, defensive power was more important than offensive power. The value of defensive spells was also by far greater than offensive spells. Euterax could sense that the level 2 protective cover of the mechanical bladed troop was even more tyrannical than the level 2 defensive spells he had mastered. Additionally, the mechanical bladed troop was a golem life form. It was immune to the majority of curses and other evil spells. Moreover, it wasn't afraid of death. Even Euterax might not be this bladed troop's match. Good stuff, truly good stuff. Lamix stared at the mechanical bladed troop. His eyes flashed with a scorching glint. Then his gaze fell on the dimensional crest on Jessica's chest. He was brimming with excitement. As long as our Fernandro clan has those 10 level 2 warlock rank mechanical golems, then we can absolutely become one of the strongest level 2 warlock clans. Jessica felt Lemix's gaze. She tightly grasped the dimensional crest and then loosened it. Through Fernandro clan's careful nurturing, she had always placed the clan first. She was very clear about what those 10 level 2 mechanical golems meant for Fernandro clan. Yang Feng said faintly, "All right, if there's nothing else, then you can withdraw." Uterax and the other two could only leave. Yang Feng operated another level 2 liquid metal robot and quickly rushed to the interior of Giant Stone City's portable fortified fortress with the Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse. The Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse was taken out and refined. Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse, degree of completeness 99.5%. The corpse can be used to extract a vial of intermediate concentration of Moffin demonic polar bear's blood meridians. Special battle soldier, mechanical demonic polar bear. 8 m tall, 65 tons in weight, equipped with a super magic core propulsion furnace, level 5 protective cover, combat radius of 10,000 kilometers, requires 1 million kuan of energy, 10 units of dimensional crystal. General evaluation of battle prowess, level 10. No ability to continue evolving. Manufacturing time, 24 hours. Yang Feng revealed a trace of a gratified smile. "That's great. Like this, I have 2 primary battle robots with battle prowess comparable to Great Warlocks. Even if I encounter a genuine Great Warlock rank enemy, then I can still put up a fight." In Tyrannid subcontinent, any Great Warlock rank expert was a peak existence. They could completely dominate a warlock group and establish a kingdom. Moreover, Great Warlock rank experts were known as legend rank experts in other planes. Any one of them could leave their name in history as a legendary figure. A lot of low-level planes' strongest experts were merely Great Warlock rank experts. Every single Great Warlock rank expert was extremely arrogant. They were basically loners. Yang Feng had 2 primary battle robots with battle prowess comparable to Great Warlocks. He could easily defeat many lone Great Warlock rank experts. Yang Feng thought somewhat regretfully, "It's a pity that I don't have the Moffin demonic polar bear's cultivation method, otherwise I would soon have another Blood Meridian Warlock clan." Chapter 121. In order to become a Blood Meridian Warlock, one must possess the Blood Meridian essence of a formidable life form as well as a matching cultivation method. In Tyrannid subcontinent, the secret cultivation method of a Great Warlock rank extraordinary life form like the Moffin demonic polar bear was practically impossible to find. It was precisely because of this that Lemix had so easily handed over the vial of Moffin demonic polar bear's corpse to Yang Feng. Black City, inside a luxurious hotel room. "Patriarch Darren, why do you want me to marry that waste Yang Feng?" Jessica said somewhat puzzled. "If we were to have a marriage alliance, then wouldn't it be better for me to marry Steel City's city lord?" Jessica was very precocious. She understood that it was basically impossible for her to decide on her own marriage. She didn't choose to rebel against her fate, but rather asked very rationally. Steel City's city lord, Yang Yi, is a man with a pure heart and few desires, wholeheartedly pursuing knowledge and power. In these 2 years, he's been hiding in Black City, conducting all kinds of research, and hasn't used a single woman. If you marry such a man, you'll only become a widow. Besides, with him around, you won't be able to grasp any power. Yang Feng, that waste, is different. He's deeply loved by Yang Yi, and is fond of women. As long as you can control him, then through him, you'll be able to obtain Steel City's tremendous resources and grasp great power. Lemix's eyes flashed with a touch of wisdom and he said solemnly. In these 2 years, Yang Feng's embodiment, Yang Yi, had been hiding in Black City, not taking a single step. Any plot against Yang Yi was as helpless as a mouse pulling a tortoise. The assassins that came to assassinate Yang Yi were basically blasted into sieves, and their corpses were hung above the city wall as a warning to the public. Under such circumstances, the major forces could only choose to speculate on Yang Ye's character through a variety of information. In these 2 years, Yang Yi hadn't doted on a single woman. The major forces could only deduce that he wasn't fond of women. As for the beauties around Yang Feng, such a person was naturally a lecher, and was easily corrupted by beauty. Jessica thought for a moment, and then silently nodded. Lamix hesitated for a moment, and then said in a consulting tone, "Jessica, those level 2 mechanical battle golems are very important to our family. Can I contribute 5 of them to the family? I can make the decision to slowly tilt the family's resources towards you. Within 100 years, I will pay you the corresponding magic stones for the 5 mechanical puppets." Jessica glanced at Lamix in surprise. Lamix was the patriarch of the Fernandro family, and he always had the final say in the family. Now that he was talking to her in a negotiating tone, she was very surprised. However, Jessica was also very smart. She immediately understood that her identity would be somewhat different from now on. She was already the fiancée of Steel City's city master Yang Yi, the only blood relative of Yang Feng. Steel City was a terrifying force that even level 3 warlocks were extremely fearful of. With such a terrifying force as her backing, she was no longer an existence that a trifling level 2 warlock family's patriarch could look down on. Just like when an ordinary woman married into the palace, that woman was definitely not an existence that a small county official could belittle. Looking at her grandfather's grandfather's grandfather, Jessica sighed inwardly and nodded, "Okay." Fernandro family attentively cared for a genius like Jessica from a young age, and provided her with huge resources and support. Jessica also had a strong sense of identity with the family. Lamix was also very well behaved, and only asked for 5 mechanical golems from her. She naturally wouldn't refuse Lamix's request. Lamix heaved a slight sigh of relief inwardly. Fortunately, Jessica wasn't the kind of woman who would turn hostile after gaining power. Fernandro Principality's capital, Nerona City, was an enormous city with a population of 1,500,000. It was extremely prosperous. After the underworld's allied forces invaded the surface world, aristocrats and refugees from the 4 great principalities, Cineris Principality, Poten Principality, Najiro Principality, and Domvet Principality, poured into the enormous city in a steady stream, causing Nerona City to become somewhat overcrowded, with refugee camps appearing one after another. At the same time, the shadow of war shrouded Nerona City. Countless workers were frantically reinforcing Nerona City, and also starting to build inner cities inside Nerona City, preparing to withdraw into the inner city to defend after the outer city was breached. 2 kilometers away from the entrance of Nerona City's south gate, 20,000 Fernandro Principality's imperial guards were surrounding and protecting the Fernandro Principality's Grand Duke as well as all the important ministers of Fernandro Principality. They were quietly standing and gazing into the distance. That good-for-nothing Yang Feng is really arrogant, to actually make so many people of Fernandro Principality wait for him. Among a group of aristocratic youngsters dressed in gorgeous clothing, a handsome, frail-looking young man said very discontentedly. Jessica raised her eyebrows and snapped, "Shut up, Elton, you idiot. If you dare to speak ill of Yang Feng again, then I'll have my father teach you a good lesson." Elton's gaze was ice-cold as he ridiculed, "Jessica, Yang Feng's sole aptitude is only inferior level. He's originally a good-for-nothing. You haven't married him yet you're already speaking up for that good-for-nothing fiancé of yours? You should know that you're a woman of Fernandro family." Yang Feng is Fernandro family's greatest enemy, Steel City's Yang Ye's only kin. For an outsider, you actually dare to scold me? Are you still a member of Fernandro family? The group of Fernandro family's youngsters also shot ice-cold gazes at Jessica. Yang Feng's Steel City was established by cutting off half of Fernandro Principality. It could be said that he was stepping on Fernandro family to ascend. Fernandro family was brimming with hatred towards Steel City as well as Yang Feng. A beautiful woman with a head full of short blue hair, a sexy and well-developed figure, about 23 or 24 years old, with traces of a mature woman's charm said coldly, "Enough. After all, Yang Feng came to support us. You're not allowed to speak ill of him again." Elton creased his eyebrows and said, "Big Sister Helena, no one has seen the actual combat capabilities of Steel City's mechanized infantry division. No matter how strong those golems are, they're only trifling knight-rank mechanical golems. Is it necessary to greet them in such a grand manner? Steel City's mechanized infantry division didn't have any actual combat achievements. The younger generation of Fernandro family didn't believe that those knight-rank golems could contend against the allied forces of the underworld's races. After all, those terrifying existences had successively destroyed more than a dozen principalities in the Southern States coalition. Chapter 122. Omagudo Flying Snake. That's a scout from the Hellion Army's 3rd Corps, Snake Demon Corps. Their appearance here means that the Snake Demon Corps isn't far. Suddenly, a slightly fearful voice sounded from the crowd. Fernandro Principality's bigwigs raised their heads to take a look. Their complexions at once became incomparably pale and their eyes flashed with a touch of fear. One after another, huge flying snakes up to 20 m long, covered in a layer of black scales, with 18 pairs of transparent fly-like wings were flying towards them from the sky. These huge flying snakes that could fly in the sky were Omagudo flying snakes. These flying snakes were a subspecies of Omagudo flying demonic snakes. Omagudo flying demonic snakes were extraordinary life forms that possessed terrifying battle prowess comparable to great warlock rank after reaching adulthood. After reaching adulthood, Omagudo flying snakes were merely comparable to level 1 warlocks. Some pure-blooded Omagudo flying snakes could even evolve to a level 2 warlock rank. These Omagudo flying snakes were beasts born from the mating of Hellion Clan's Snake Demon Clan. They were under the complete control of Snake Demon Clan's royal family. They were also one of Snake Demon Clan's most incisive weapons. Seeing the several hundred Omagudo flying snakes flying in the sky, the complexions of Fernandro Principality's bigwigs changed greatly. Many people's legs were even trembling. They were extremely afraid. Withdraw! Archduke Fernandro's complexion was pale as he decisively ordered. An Omagudo flying snake was enough to give Giant Stone City, such a large city, a huge headache. In a field battle, those several hundred Omagudo flying snakes could completely devour everyone here. Those Fernandro Principality's greater aristocrats had panic-stricken expressions. They practically tumbled and crawled as they fled towards Nerona City. The several hundred Omagudo flying snakes' speed suddenly soared. As if several hundred arrows, they pounced towards Fernandro Principality's greater aristocrats. The 5-story-tall Warlock Pagoda in the center of Fernandro Principality shone with radiance, for fireballs burst out in a flash. As if meteors, they bombarded the flock of Omagudo flying snakes in the sky. In a flash, the 4 Omagudo flying snakes were blown to pieces, with countless fragments falling from the sky. Magical radiances flashed from the center of Fernandro Principality's 5-story-tall Warlock Pagoda. Negative spells fell on the several hundred Omagudo flying snakes, weakening their battle prowess. Sitting on a level 2 Warlock rank Omagudo flying snake, dressed in a black leather armor, with wheat-colored skin, and a gorgeous appearance, the woman opened her cherry lips and issued an extremely strange howl. The hundreds of Omagudo flying snakes instantly turned around and retreated. Several hundred Omagudo flying snakes weren't enough to capture Fernandro Principality's capital, Nerona City. Not long after, all kinds of large and small ordinary venomous snakes and all kinds of snake-type extraordinary life forms formed a sea of snakes, rushing towards Nerona City. If a person with trypophobia saw so many snakes, then they would definitely fall limply from fear. In that sea of snakes, there were close to 20,000 giant snakes with a body length of more than 10 meters. Sitting on top of those 20,000 giant snakes were Snake Demon Clan's experts that didn't differ much from ordinary humans, but had a pair of snake-like vertical pupils. Demon Clan's ancestors could be traced back to their origins. Their ancestors were also humans, but under the Second Warlock Dynasty's taboo transformation, only then did they become freaks like demons. The majority of demons, before they transform, their appearances were basically no different from humans. If Demon Clan didn't have to devour human flesh and blood in order to stay sane, then devouring human experts would allow them to obtain enormous power. Then they could even be regarded as a branch of Blood Meridian warlocks. Above the city wall, when Fernandro Principality's experts saw that densely packed sea of snakes in the distance, Their scalps went numb and their eyes flashed with fear. That lofty city wall could defend against the attacks of many extraordinary life forms, but its defensive effect against that sea of snakes wasn't great. Without the support of the lofty city wall, even with the protection of the 5-story-tall warlock pagoda and the terrifying might of a level 3 warlock, Fernandro Principality still didn't have the confidence to defeat the snake demon legion that could enslave countless giant snakes. Among the 20,000 giant snakes, there was a Kamado silver-white demonic horn giant snake with a length of 40 meters, its entire body covered in a layer of silver, and a single horn. This was a terrifying giant snake that would directly promote to a level 3 extraordinary life form after reaching adulthood, and even had a trace of hope to evolve into a level 4 extraordinary life form, Kamado silver-white demonic horned snake king. On the head of that adult Kamado silver-white demonic horn giant snake, there was a soft sofa inlaid. On that sofa, there was a peerless beauty with skin as white as jade, an extremely beautiful appearance, blonde hair, blue eyes, plump buttocks and large breasts, brimming with the charm of a mature woman. This peerless beauty was Snake Demon Legion's commander, demonic snake maiden Illyria, an expert with the terrifying strength of a pinnacle level 3 warlock. She was also a peerless genius of Snake Demon Clan with the greatest hope of promoting to a great warlock. Snake Demon Clan's ancestor possessed the Snake Dowager's blood meridians. Snake Demon Clan also had a thin trace of the Snake Dowager's blood meridians. Therefore, within Snake Demon Clan, women were superior to men. Female experts emerged in an endless stream. While men were basically only there to breed and carry on the descendants, their status was generally one rank lower than that of women. Illyria said faintly, "Attack!" Shortly after, the densely packed common vipers, amounting to several 100,000, madly rushed towards Nerona City like a tide. Above Nerona City's city wall, magical radiances surged, blessing the elite soldiers and enhancing their battle prowess. Heavy-duty catapults quickly took their positions, before hurling kerosene cans towards the swarm of snakes. A large number of kerosene cans were thrown into the swarm of snakes, before shattering. A level 1 warlock extended his hand and pointed, before shooting out a rocket-like fireball, before exploding amidst the swarm of snakes, instantly igniting the kerosene, forming a huge sea of fire within the swarm of snakes. Countless vipers were incessantly rolling about within the sea of fire, before being burnt to death. Rain mist. From within Snake Demon Clan's army, 5 beautiful women quickly walked out. They at once erupted with the terrifying life force of level 2 warlocks, before silently reciting incantations and pointing towards the sky. Countless water elemental particles converged in the sky, forming a huge black cloud. A large amount of rain fell from the sky, before mixing with a large amount of mist and shrouding Nerona City. Under the pouring of the heavy rain, the huge sea of fire was extinguished one after another. Chapter 123. The complexions of everyone above the city wall suddenly changed. Under the heavy rain, the archers among them were practically crippled. Furthermore, fighting under the rain and fog, not only would the human warriors be greatly weakened, but the battle prowess of the various vipers would instead be greatly enhanced. Nerona City's Warlock Pagoda at the center of the city surged with extremely formidable magic fluctuations. A dispel instantly shrouded the black clouds in the sky. Under the power of dispel, the black clouds in the sky immediately disappeared. Not long after the black clouds disappeared, the Snake Demon Legion's warlocks once again cast rain and fog, once again condensing into a lump of black clouds. Nerona City's Warlock Pagoda unceasingly dispersed the black clouds in the sky. The magic powers of both sides unceasingly intertwined in the sky. The heavy-duty catapults on top of the city wall were still unceasingly hurling kerosene. Then the level 1 warlocks cast fireball to ignite it. Waves of flames and thick smoke once again appeared in the midst of the snakes, devouring a large number of them. The densely packed snakes avoided the area enveloped by the flames, quickly swam past Nerona City's moat, and continuously climbed up along Nerona City's city wall. Shadow rays. Arcane projectiles. Negative energy rays. Above the city wall, more than 1,000 apprentice warlocks successively cast level 0 offensive spells, bombarding the densely packed snakes. In a split second, more than 1,000 vipers tragically died at the hands of the apprentice warlocks. Some apprentice warlocks also released a lot of gradeless extraordinary life forms and a variety of extraordinary plants to fight with the snakes. Fernandro Principality's royal guards also acted one after another, madly beheading the snakes. Every second, there were thousands of vipers dying. A lot of vipers climbed above the city wall and bit the feet of the royal guards, but were blocked by their armors, before being chopped into mincemeat. After a royal guard dressed in full-body armor brandished his sword and beheaded 2 vipers, suddenly, a 1-meter-long demonic snake suddenly erupted, ruthlessly biting the royal guard's thigh. Its extremely sharp venomous fangs at once penetrated the royal guard's armor, before piercing his thigh and injecting venom inside. Die! The royal guard had a look of fear on his face as he screamed and slashed at the devil's snake, splitting it in 2. In the next moment, the imperial guard felt the world spin around him. The poisonous gas attacked his heart and he fell to the ground, covered by the countless poisonous snakes. Many low-grade extraordinary life-form demonic snakes were hidden in the midst of the snakes. These demonic snakes mixed in with the ordinary snakes and constantly attacked, biting the royal guard's thighs one by one. Soon, the miserable screams of the imperial guards could be heard coming from above the city walls. A large number of imperial guards were killed by those poisonous snakes. Seeing this scene, the official warlocks who originally intended to preserve their spirit force had no choice but to take action. In an instant, a demonic wolf covered in flames, a 10-meter-tall steel golem, a 3-headed demonic lion, a demonic leopard, and 3 man-eating demonic vines appeared on the city wall. These formidable existences with battle prowess comparable to level 1 warlocks took action one after another, exterminating a large number of vipers. Illyria waved her jade hand. 10,000 of the 20,000 demonic snake legion's warriors on the ground separated from the rest and rode their thick demonic snakes towards Nerona City. The demonic snakes ridden by the demonic snake legion were called Bagraboas. It was also a subspecies born from demonic snake clans mating. After reaching adulthood, warlocks would possess a terrifying physique comparable to that of level 1 warlocks. Their only shortcoming was that their intelligence was too low and they were unable to use spells. Their true strength was far inferior to that of level 1 warlocks. If the 10,000 Bagraboas joined forces to attack, then even if a level 3 warlock didn't escape, he would still be exhausted to death. When those Fernandro Principality's bigwigs saw the 10,000 Bagraboas move, their complexions immediately became incomparably pale. In a flash, the Warlock Pagoda in Nerona City erupted with incomparably formidable fluctuations of magic. Clouds of fire containing a tremendous amount of fire elemental particles quickly condensed in the sky, brewing. Obviously, a large-scale fire attribute destructive spell was brewing. Once this level 3 large-scale fire attribute spell was released, then all life forms within the range of the clouds of fire would be affected by the fire attribute spell. Among the 10,000 Bagraboas, a beautiful woman with short black hair, wheat-colored skin, a pair of huge breasts, and dressed in a sexy leather armor that only covered her vital parts instantly erupted with a terrifying life force comparable to that of a level 3 warlock. This beautiful woman was demonic snake maiden Illyria's assistant, Emma, the Snake Demon Legion's deputy legion leader. Emma pointed at the sky and cast a dispel spell. A magical radiance immediately entered the sky, instantly dispersing the large-scale fire attribute destructive spell in the sky. In the sky, the clouds of fire immediately collapsed and disappeared. Those large-scale meteorological spells were extremely powerful and had a wide range. Its only shortcoming was that it required an extremely long preparation time. It could easily be dispelled by an expert using Dispel. Of course, if there wasn't an expert proficient in Dispel keeping watch, then once a meteorological spell was fully cast, its might would absolutely be world-shaking. Just like the meteorological spell prepared by Nerona City's Warlock Pagoda, if it was cast, then it could completely annihilate more than half of the ordinary vipers and inflict heavy damage to the 10,000 Bagruboa's cavalrymen. After the meteorological spell was dispelled, Lamix, who presided over the Warlock Pagoda within the Warlock Pagoda, was so depressed that he wanted to spit blood. The Warlock Pagoda's magical radiance flickered, and several tens of fireballs were shot from the Warlock Pagoda, bombarding the Bagruboa's cavalrymen like rocket launchers, directly blasting several tens of Bagruboas into pieces. Emma's gaze was cold and detached as she watched the several tens of Bagruboa's cavalrymen being blasted to death by those fireballs. She was only in the army to dispel and counter large-scale spells. She basically wouldn't waste her spirit force to block the damage for those Bagruboa's cavalrymen. Arcane projectiles. Negative energy rays. Acid sputtering. Grease. The several thousand apprentice warlocks looked at the madly rushing Bagruboa's cavalrymen and madly cast all kinds of level 0 spells towards them. The Bagruboa's cavalrymen struggled with their bodies and directly shattered the spider webs. The arcane projectiles, negative energy rays, acid sputtering and other level 0 spells bombarding the Bagruboa's cavalrymen were either blocked by the Bagruboas beneath them or by the boa scales on their bodies. Unless several hundred level 0 spells simultaneously attacked a Bagruboa cavalryman, otherwise, they simply wouldn't die. Chapter 124. The 10,000 Bagruboa cavalries withstood the countless attacks. After paying the price of close to 200 casualties, they quickly swam to the edge of Nerona City's city wall, and then directly swam up the city wall. Once the Bagruboa cavalries swam up the city wall, the Boa cavalries with the strength of an Earth Knight and above immediately jumped down from their Bagruboas, before madly beheading Nerona City's royal guards with their great swords in hand. Nerona City's royal guards' ordinary soldiers basically all had the cultivation of a high-level warrior. But compared to those Boa cavalries with the cultivation of an Earth Knight, they basically weren't on the same level. Those Boa cavalries rushed into the crowd. Then like tigers entering a flock of sheep, they started a massacre. Those huge Bagruboas also opened their bloody maws one after another, before swallowing the human warriors above the city wall. Although Nerona City's royal guards resisted with all their might, but they still suffered disastrous casualties, and very quickly showed signs of defeat. It's over! Under the protection of the 5-bladed troops, Jessica's complexion was deathly pale as she watched the hell-like scene above Nerona City's city wall. Damn it, is Fernandro Principality going to perish in my hands? I'm unreconciled. Archduke Fernandro faced upwards and issued a long howl of grief and indignation. Not long ago, Elton and some of Fernandro clan's youngsters, who were still incomparably arrogant a while ago, watched the savage scene of those Bagruboas devouring the humans. Each and every one of them was scared to the point of trembling, their eyes brimming with fear. Some timid ones were even scared to the point of wetting themselves. Many of Fernandro clan's young ladies went into hiding. Only Helena and a few apprentice warlock rank young ladies with decent strength were still hiding behind the army, and were still fighting. Are those Steel City's mechanical golems? They're really too formidable. If only they belonged to me, how great would that be? Helena looked at the bladed troops guarding in front of Jessica, her beautiful eyes brimming with jealousy and envy. The 5-bladed troops guarding in front of Jessica, brandishing their high-frequency oscillation blades, as if cutting tofu, they easily beheaded those Bagruboas as well as those Boa cavalries. Those Bagruboas had just approached Jessica, when the 5-bladed troops charged and directly chopped those Bagruboas into countless pieces. On the vast city wall of Nerona City, only Jessica's side was barely holding on. The other directions have practically collapsed. A large number of human warriors and apprentice warlocks were swallowed by those Bagruboas, beheaded by those Boa cavalrymen, or bitten to death by those vipers. Relying on the protection of the 5 ferocious and peerless bladed troops, even if the entire Nerona City fell into enemy hands, Jessica would still have the hope to kill her way out of Nerona City and escape. It's over! Illyria watched as the 10,000 Bagruboa cavalrymen ascended Nerona City's city wall. The corners of her mouth slightly rose, revealing a trace of a smile. The capitals of Cineris Principality and Poten Principality were easily captured by Illyria. Just as Illyria expected, after the Bagruboa riders attacked the city wall, the forbidden guards above Nerona City didn't even persist for half an hour before their morale collapsed and they started to flee in all directions. Cries, shouts and blood-curdling screams reverberated above Nerona City. Archduke Fernandro successively beheaded quite a few fleeing high-ranking officers, but was still unable to curb the collapse of his army. Finally, he sighed in frustration and his eyes flashed with a whiff of despair. The Minister of Defense Archer had an anxious expression as he arrived beside Archduke Fernandro and advised, "Your Majesty, let's quickly escape. As long as we survive, we'll have the chance to stage a comeback." Archduke Fernandro was very unwilling as he said, "After losing Fernandro Principality, what value would we have in the eyes of Warlock College and Talia? Even if we escape to St. Colin City, we'll only be living under someone else's roof and struggling at death's door." Fernandro Principality had to hand over a large amount of resources to Warlock College and Talia every year. Only then did it obtain the authority to govern the principality. Moreover, it was valued and sheltered by Warlock College and Talia. After Fernandro Principality was destroyed, Fernandro family would also lose its foundation and wouldn't be valued by Warlock College and Talia. Archer said, "As long as we're alive, there's hope." Wasn't Princess Jessica betrothed to Steel City's City Master's sole kin, Yang Feng? With the support of Steel City's City Master, we'll still have hope of restoring our country. Archduke Fernandro gave a miserable smile and pointed towards the several hundred Omagudo flying snakes that were already descending from the sky. Hope of restoring our country? That's just deceiving ourselves. Even if Steel City has 100,000 knight-rank steel golems, they still wouldn't be a match for those freaks. Archer looked at the several hundred Omagudo flying snakes that were descending from the sky to give Fernandro Principality a final blow. His eyes flashed with a whiff of despair. He also didn't believe that Steel City's mechanical golems could contend against the Omagudo flying snakes. Boom, 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 boom. Just as Nerona City had sunk into despair and chaos, air-to-air missiles dropped from the sky, bombarding the flock of Omagudo flying snakes with incomparable precision and instantly exploding. One after another, Omagudo flying snakes were instantly torn apart under the bombardment of the air-to-air missiles, turning into countless fragments that scattered on the ground. Seeing this scene, Illyria's smile slightly stiffened, and then her eyes surged with endless fury. Those Omagudo flying snakes were variant species born from the mating of Snake Demon Clan. They were also the Snake Demon Legion's most elite main force. Every one of them was very precious. Illyria's status among Tyrandot subcontinent's Snake Demon Clan was extremely high, yet she only had several hundred Omagudo flying snakes in her possession. She used these Omagudo flying snakes as scouts and trump cards to decide the outcome of the battle. Now that several dozen of them were killed, it immediately made her furious and her killing intent surged. Who the hell is it? To actually dare to kill my Omagudo flying snakes? I definitely won't forgive you. Illyria raised her head and looked towards the direction where the missiles were fired. The terrifying life force of a pinnacle level 3 warlock erupted, issuing a terrifying whistle. In the distant sky, 100 Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters were lined up and flying in her direction. Behind the protection of the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters, 120 Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft were flying. High in the sky, 100 Lightning supersonic fighters were flying, guarding 60 Colossus heavy-duty bombers. Hearing Illyria's shrill howl, above Nerona City's city wall, all the Fernandro Principality's people who were still fighting had a trace of hope in their gazes as they looked towards the huge group of fighter jets. I'm Steel City's emissary. Above a modified Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft, an elevator opened. Yang Feng stood on top of the elevator, overlooking the fierce battle between the two great forces below, revealing a trace of a smile as he said, Chapter 125. Gazes brimming with complex emotions shot from Neurona City and concentrated on Yang Feng. Fernandro Principality's people looked up at Yang Feng's figure in the sky and their eyes surged with a touch of hope. In the sky, the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters were constantly firing air-to-air missiles, blasting the Omegudo flying snakes into countless pieces that scattered in all directions. "Stop!" Illyria barked sternly as she watched the several hundred Omegudo flying snakes being blasted into fragments. She felt a sharp pain in her heart. Yang Feng smiled slightly and snapped his fingers. "How is that possible?" As if laying eggs, the 60 Colossus heavy-duty bombers flying at an altitude of 5,000 m dropped the densely packed cluster bombs. Boom, 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 boom. As soon as the cluster bombs hit the ground, they set off earth-shaking explosions. The explosive power of each cluster bomb was equivalent to a small-scale level 3 spell, and an area the size of a football field was covered by the power of the explosion. Under the first round of bombardment of the cluster bombs, all kinds of vipers and snake-type extraordinary life forms on the ground were blasted into pieces and scattered everywhere. The Snake Demon Legion's experts as well as Fernandro Principality's experts were dumbstruck when they saw this scene, not daring to believe their eyes. Archduke Fernandro was somewhat dumbstruck, his eyes brimming with astonishment. "So strong. Is this the battle prowess of Steel City's mechanized infantry division? It's really terrifying. Steel City's City Master's alchemy has really reached the acme of perfection to actually reach such a terrifying level." Helena looked at the vast expanse of vipers and snake-type extraordinary life forms disappearing from the battlefield, her beautiful eyes brimming with astonishment. Such a terrifying army, such formidable weaponry. No wonder they had the confidence to annex us within a month at that time. Such alchemical weaponry is really too terrifying. Jessica was somewhat delighted and excited, yet also somewhat complicated as she looked at Yang Feng in the sky. She sighed with some bitterness in her heart. Steel City's mechanized infantry division is really too powerful. At that time in Warlock College Antalya, Jessica looked down on trash with low soul aptitude like Yang Feng. However, due to Steel City's great influence, she wouldn't take the initiative to provoke Yang Feng. When she first heard that Yang Feng was promoted to a level 3 apprentice warlock, she felt very upset. After all, in terms of soul aptitude alone, she was more than 100 times stronger than Yang Feng. Now that she had become Yang Feng's fiancée, it gave her an indescribable feeling. Elton and the other youths who originally looked down on Steel City and the Fernandro family were all dumbstruck, not daring to believe their eyes. "Stop. Do you hear me?" Illyria's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of anger. She instantly erupted with the life force of a pinnacle level 3 warlock. A pair of dragon wings grew from her back. She lightly tapped her feet and turned into an extremely fast black ray shooting towards Yang Feng lightning fast. Yang Feng's mind stirred slightly. Soon after, 50 lightning supersonic fighters swooped down from the sky. Their cannons rumbled and madly strafed Illyria with all their might. Illyria's figure flashed with a spell radiance, before more than 100 lifelike phantoms appeared in midair. Those lightning supersonic fighters did not use their eyes to identify their enemies, but instead used their radars to lock onto their enemies. Those more than 100 phantoms were basically unable to confuse them. Their cannons still madly strafed Illyria, while air-to-air automatic homing missiles also madly bombarded Illyria. Illyria's figure shook, as if she had only taken a single step. She left behind afterimages as she evaded the strafing of those lightning supersonic fighters, before strangely appearing in front of Yang Feng. She extended her lily-white hand and directly grabbed at Yang Feng. The 2 level 8 shield troops guarding in front of Yang Feng instantly raised their large shields, opened a level 3 protective cover and blocked in front of Yang Feng. Illyria gave a sweet smile. She instantly disappeared from where she stood and very strangely appeared behind Yang Feng. She extended her lily-white hand and grabbed at Yang Feng. When Illyria's lily-white hand had just come into contact with the level 3 protective cover, her pretty face changed slightly. She discovered that she was unexpectedly unable to break through the protective cover in an instant. Just as Illyria's figure slightly paused, those lightning supersonic fighters completely locked onto her figure, their cannons rumbled and countless cannons shells madly bombarded Illyria. Demonic snake morph. Illyria's pretty face changed slightly, she gave a shrill howl and in a flash, her whole body blossomed with black life force. Countless demonic snake scales suddenly grew and appeared, her eyes changed from human eyes to snake-like vertical eyes. A long snake tail appeared behind her and her lily-white hands grew incomparably sharp claws. From a stunning beauty, she transformed into a freak with a mixture of human and snake characteristics. The countless cannon's shells bombarded Illyria's body, before being instantly jolted away by the formidable life force revolving around her body, unable to injure her in the slightest. The air-to-air automatic homing missiles also stopped beside Illyria, unable to explode. Because once those automatic homing missiles exploded, then Yang Feng and Illyria would be blasted to pieces. To actually be able to force me to this point by relying on some mechanical golems. You can also be proud. Just obediently surrender. Illyria's vertical pupils flashed with a cold glint, her claws carrying an incomparably tyrannical black life force instantly erupted, piercing through the 2 level 3 protective covers and grabbing at Yang Feng. At this moment, level 8 shield troops suddenly jumped out of the Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft, instantly erupting with level 3 protective covers one after another. Each level 3 protective cover was equivalent to a level 3 force field-type defensive spell. Dozens of level 3 protective covers superimposed on each other, forcibly sending Illyria flying. Illyria gave a furious howl, countless black life force revolved around her, her figure shook and instantly split into dozens of afterimages, bombarding Yang Feng with punches one after another. One by one, the level 3 protective covers burst open under Illyria's bombardment. If it was a level 8 shield troop, then within a second, Illyria would have directly dismantled it into a pile of components. However, the nearly 30 level 8 shield troops unceasingly urged the level 3 protective covers, layer after layer, firmly blocking Illyria's frenzied attacks. Yang Feng, under the protection of the level 8 shield troops, said with a smile, "What's your name? How about we have a chat?" Fighting back and forth, it's too hurtful. Illyria became furious and shouted sternly, "Shut up! If you're a man, then come out from behind those guards and fight me one-on-one. Hiding behind guards, what kind of skill is that?" Chapter 126. Yang Feng said with a grin, "Equipment is also a part of strength. I'm a warlock alchemist, isn't it a matter of course for warlock alchemists to command their golems to fight? How many warlock alchemists would abandon their golems and go into battle bare-handed? Furthermore, there's something wrong with what you just said. Now isn't the backward feudal era, gender equality is the mainstream of society." Illyria became even more furious within, she hated Yang Feng's shamelessness. Her speed suddenly doubled, her fists were like meteors as they frantically bombarded the level 3 protective covers. The level 3 protective covers of the 30 level 8 mechanical shield troops were actually forcibly torn open by Illyria. Her fist slammed onto the super alloy shield of a level 8 mechanical shield troop. A terrifying peerless power erupted in a split second. With a single strike, the level 8 shield troop was blasted into pieces, its components scattering in all directions. Yang Feng smiled as he clapped his hands and teased, "Amazing! However, please continue to work hard. This bit of attack power isn't enough to destroy my guards." 60 shield troops equipped with external flight equipment had already flown over from both sides, before landing beside Yang Feng and activating their level 3 protective covers one after another. The 89 level 3 protective covers were stacked in front of Yang Feng, giving Illyria a feeling of powerlessness. The offensive power of the level 8 shield troops was extremely low. All their components were for defense. Even ordinary level 3 extraordinary life forms could resist 1 or 2 attacks. Illyria being able to tear apart the defenses of the 30 shield troops was already extremely terrifying, but in front of the 89 shield troops, it seemed somewhat powerless. Just at this moment, rumbling sounds were transmitted from afar. Illyria turned around to take a look, her heart turning cold. She saw smoke and dust rising from afar, a large number of tanks, IFVs, armored personnel carriers, self-propelled artillery, howitzers, rocket launchers and many other weapons of war forming a huge convoy moving towards this direction. The group of tanks even more so carried out a roundabout outflanking, cutting off the Snake Demon Legion's path of retreat. Illyria took a look at her Snake Demon Legion, only to see that under the berserk bombardment of the Colossus heavy-duty bombers, the Snake Demon Legion that she had painstakingly built had already suffered disastrous casualties, before scattering in all directions. Although Emma had already completely suppressed Nerona City's Warlock Pagoda, but it was still impossible to reverse the situation. The Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport aircraft were dropping airborne troops towards Nerona City. Those airborne troops were basically level 7 bladed troops and level 7 gunner troops. The level 7 bladed troops and level 7 gunner troops were completely one-sided massacres against the Bagruboa cavalrymen. The Omagudo flying snakes in the air had also been decimated by the Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters, with less than 60 of them remaining. Illyria felt a sharp pain in her heart as she commanded in a mournful voice, "Retreat!" The Snake Devil Legion issued shrill howls, then almost collapsed, and quickly fled in the direction they came from. Yang Feng said with some regret, "It's a pity. If you had persisted here, your core would have been finished." If Illyria got angry and tangled with Yang Feng, then the Snake Demon Legion would be completely devoured by Yang Feng's mechanized infantry division. Illyria recovered her tranquility. Her snake-like vertical pupils flashed with a touch of a bizarre radiance as she coldly asked, "What's your name?" Yang Feng said with a slight smile, "Do you want to be my slave? If you let me set up a restriction, then I'll tell you my name." "Alright. If you're willing to give me all of your war golems, then having me be your slave isn't a problem." The magic radiance on Illyria's body flashed and she withdrew from the snake demon morph. She recovered her mature, charming, sexy and alluring demeanor of a peerless beauty. She gave Yang Feng a charming smile, traces of faint magic fluctuations surged from her body, and a charm spell was silently deployed. The female life form cast a charm spell on you. The principle of this charm spell is to use body language, appearance, spirit fluctuations, environment, tone of voice, and other conditions to carry out a shallow level of hypnosis, making you subconsciously have a favorable impression of her, laying the foundation for the next step of the psychological suggestion and hypnosis. A series of analyses flashed in Yang Feng's eyes. Illyria's charm spell was extremely formidable, not the slightest bit inferior to Anusha's. If Yang Feng's true body was here, then he would definitely fall for it. However, there was only a liquid metal robot here. Through the liquid metal robot's point of view, Yang Feng only felt that Illyria was very beautiful, but he wasn't eroded by the charm spell. Yang Feng said with a slight smile, "Alright, I'll think about it." Sure enough, human males are only at this level. Illyria's beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of contempt. The next moment, the lightning supersonic fighter in the sky rumbled with countless cannon shells madly bombarding Illyria. Caught off guard, Illyria was forcibly bombarded by hundreds of cannon shells. She was sent flying and spat out a mouthful of blood. She glared at Yang Feng full of resentment. Yang Feng had a harmless appearance and said with a somewhat shy smile, "Sorry, I made a mistake. How about we chat again? Son of a bitch, I'll remember you. Next time, I'll definitely make you pay." Illyria ferociously glared at Yang Feng, gave a furious roar and launched demonic snake morph. Her figure shook and she turned into a black stream of light, madly flying towards the group of tanks. After several dozen breaths of time, Illyria flew into the group of tanks. As if unparalleled, her claws were shrouded in a layer of black life force. She exerted her strength and tore a tank into two halves. Yang Feng's eyes flashed with a touch of shock. Tearing a tank with bare hands, that's too fierce. Only in the world of warlocks, where individual strength has reached the pinnacle, can such a scene be seen. The two great level 3 warlocks, Illyria and Emma, joined hands and tore the group of tanks to pieces. They forcibly broke out of the encirclement of the group of tanks with the several thousand Snake Demon Legion's remnants. The 100 lightning supersonic fighters quickly chased after them, continuously diving and strafing from the air, hunting the Snake Demon Legion's remnants. At the same time, half of the huge mechanized convoy was also split into two, continuously chasing after the Snake Demon Legion from the rear. The Thunder Demon heavy-duty transport plane that Yang Feng was riding descended from the sky and directly landed above Nerona City's city wall. Archduke Fernandro along with a group of Fernandro Principality's ministers arrived beside Yang Feng, bowed solemnly towards Yang Feng and said, "Yang Feng, welcome to Nerona City. Thank you very much for saving Nerona City's 1.5 million people. Thank you very much for saving Fernandro family. We, the Fernandro family, will never forget this kindness." Chapter 127. All the ministers also bowed extremely solemnly towards Yang Feng in salute. No matter what their thoughts were, Yang Feng had indeed saved them today. If not for Yang Feng's appearance, then they would have been reduced to Snake Demon Clan slaves or even food. Although Hellion Clan was born from among humans, but they had already developed into humans' natural enemies. Hellion Clan viewed humans as pigs and dogs for food. And after humans discovered Hellions, they would basically kill them. Colluding with Hellions and raising them in captivity was an unpardonable felony in human society. They were just products of Second Warlock Dynasty's experiments on the fusion of all kinds of ancient life forms blood meridians. They possessed a lot of ancient life forms blood meridians as well as mutated blood meridians. Many human warlocks, in order to pursue power, would secretly raise Hellions in captivity or collude with Hellions in order to obtain formidable blood meridians. Under the enticement of Hellions, every year, there would be human warlocks who would degenerate, implanted with Hellion blood meridians and become Hellions. It was precisely because of this that Hellions couldn't be exterminated. After exchanging pleasantries, Archduke Fernandro personally led Yang Feng to a luxurious palace outside of Fernandro Imperial Palace to rest. The mechanized infantry division that Yang Feng brought, with its main force being level 5 humanoid primary battle robots, quickly built all kinds of fortifications within Nerona City, starting to fortify Nerona City. There were countless experts and legions within the underworld's allied forces. The Snake Demon Legion was just one of them. If they didn't prepare for battle, then Nerona City wouldn't be so easy to defend. At night, Nerona City's Imperial Palace, in a luxurious hall inlaid with countless magic lamps and the floor covered with marble, gathered the aristocrats of Nerona City. Yang Feng, dressed in a black formal attire, stepped into the palace, attracting the gazes of practically everyone within the palace. Steel City's mechanized infantry division had defeated the Snake Demon Legion with 2 level 3 warlocks with an absolute advantage, making everyone within Fernandro Principality aware of Steel City's deep foundation and formidable strength. In Tyrandot subcontinent, the strong were respected. Moreover, during the invasion of the underworld's allied forces, an expert would receive the respect and attachment of countless people. Steel City had 10 mechanized infantry divisions, yet it had only dispatched 3 mechanized infantry divisions to defeat the Snake Demon Legion. From this, one could easily imagine how deep the reserves of the City of Steel was. Yang Feng was the only blood relative of Steel City's master Yang Yi. The power he possessed was enough to annihilate many small warlock families and make countless people attach themselves to him. Hello, Yang Feng. I am Elena. May I know your name? Dressed in a pitch-black, low-cut evening gown, revealing a large area of her snow-white skin, her slender legs faintly visible and exquisite makeup, the beautiful Helena, appearing mature and charming, walked up to Yang Feng and said with a sweet smile. Yang Feng said with a light smile, "It's nice to meet you." Helena was one of the most beautiful women in the banquet. Yang Feng naturally wouldn't refuse the good intentions of getting to know such a beauty. "Hello, big brother Yang Feng, I am nice. Thank you very much for saving us today." A 13 or 14-year-old little girl with dazzling blonde hair, a petite figure, ample twin peaks, beautiful and pure, yet somewhat sexy, and snow-white skin arrived in front of Yang Feng. Her big, limpid eyes were filled with adoration as she said with a sweet smile. Yang Feng said with a light smile, "It's what I should do." Fernando Principality's aristocratic young men and women successively moved towards him, courteously greeting him and surrounding him in the center like stars surrounding the moon. Standing on either side of Yang Feng, Elena and Nissa calmly engaged in an open and veiled struggle with the aristocratic young ladies who surrounded them. His Majesty the Archduke has arrived. Along with a resonant voice, Archduke Fernando stepped into the reception hall under everyone's attentive gazes. Beside him stood a beautiful young lady Jessica, dressed in a pure white evening gown, with light makeup, snow-white skin, picturesque eyebrows, and a sexy figure. Under the illumination of the magic lamps, her entire body seemed to blossom with a layer of faint fluorescence. As soon as Archduke Fernando entered the reception hall, gazes focused on him. At the same time, a lot of gazes also focused on Jessica beside him. Jessica and Helena were Nerona City's two most beautiful pearls. Jessica, who was younger and more talented, was even known as Fernando Principality's #1 beauty. In Fernando Principality, there were countless aristocratic young men who were secretly in love with Jessica. In this banquet hall, there were more than 100 aristocratic young men who were secretly in love with her. I'm very glad that everyone can do me the honor of attending this banquet. Here, I have something to announce to everyone. Archduke Fernando smiled merrily as he looked around and said, "My most beloved daughter, our Fernando Principality's most beautiful pearl Jessica, will be engaged to the savior of Nerona City's 1,500,000 people, the Steel Lord's only blood relative, Yang Feng." The banquet hall at once resounded with earth-shattering applause. Archduke Fernando said with a smile, "Yang Feng, come here." Yang Feng also smiled as he walked up to the dais and stood beside Jessica. Jessica looked at Yang Feng, a touch of blush welled up on her cheeks. She was somewhat at a loss when she thought that the youngster before her was going to become her husband. Archduke Fernando had a kind expression on his face as he grabbed Jessica's little hand and placed it on Yang Feng's hand. "Yang Feng, henceforth, I'll hand Jessica over to you. You have to treat her well." Wait. At this moment, a loud shout came from below. A handsome young man with short blue hair and a trace of gloominess shrouded between his eyebrows walked over under the protection of 4 men. Archduke Fernando's eyes flashed with a touch of dread and displeasure as he said in a deep voice, "Weaver, what's the matter?" Weaver said with a cold smile, "Your Majesty Archduke, Jessica is my fiancée. Why did you betroth her to that good-for-nothing Yang Feng?" The entire banquet hall was in an uproar. Yang Feng's eyebrows creased slightly, his gaze fell on Archduke Fernando and Jessica, and it became extremely cold. He was no longer that ordinary person who could be casually played with. If Fernando family dared to play with him, then he would make the entire Fernando family pay a painful price. Jessica was greatly alarmed and promptly asked, "Father, why didn't I know about this?" Chapter 128. Archduke Fernando's eyebrows creased slightly and he said somewhat fearfully, "Weaver, I never said that I wanted to betroth Jessica to you. Isn't this a misunderstanding?" Weaver gave an arrogant smile, swept Yang Feng with a contemptuous glance and threatened in a cold voice, "My uncle is Scarlet Hans Blitz. It's your Fernando family's honor that I fancy Jessica. Since I like her, then she's my fiancée. Yang Feng, you good-for-nothing now scram. If you dare to fight with me over a woman, then I'll let you die without a burial ground. Even your city of steel will be destroyed." After hearing Weaver's words, everyone's complexions changed greatly. The aristocrats who originally wanted to speak up for justice turned silent at once. Scarlet Hans Blitz was a peerless expert in Warlock College Antalya, second only to the few great warlocks. Warlock College Antalya's several great warlocks were basically practicing closed-door cultivation and researching all kinds of knowledge, with Blitz presiding over the daily affairs. It could be said that before the great warlocks appeared, Blitz was the uncrowned king of Warlock College Antalya. His status was comparable to that of Black Dragon Empire's Emperor Solomon. As far as the Southern States Alliance's many states were concerned, Blitz's orders couldn't be violated. The warlock families that disobeyed Blitz's orders were already massacred by him. His fierce reputation as Scarlet Hands was obtained after massacring 6 or 7 warlock families. Archduke Fernandro's complexion at once turned green and red, his face distorted due to anger, yet he couldn't speak. Fernandro family's biggest backer was Warlock College Antalya. Blitz's nephew, they didn't dare to offend him. In fact, within the Southern States Alliance, there weren't many people that dared to offend Blitz's nephew. Jessica was also angered to the point that her pretty face alternated between green and white. She secretly clenched her silver teeth, yet she didn't know what to do. As a level 2 apprentice warlock of Warlock College Antalya, she was very clear about how powerful and terrifying Scarlet Hands Blitz was. Fernandro family wasn't as powerful as the few families he had massacred. The entire banquet venue sunk into a peculiar silence. Weaver gave a proud smile and said, "Yang Feng, I'm very fond of the mechanized infantry division in your hands. Hand over control of them and you can get the hell out of here." Yang Feng, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, suddenly revealed a smile. "I think that under these circumstances, Bloody Hands Blitz Darren will definitely look at the bigger picture." With that, Yang Feng flipped his hand, a hand cannon appeared in his hand, and he aimed at Weaver's head. "Stop!" Bang! With the sound of a gunshot, Weaver's head instantly exploded. Red and white matter splattered all over the ground, and the headless corpse collapsed to the ground. Even in death, he could not believe that someone actually dared to kill him. A figure flashed, and Lamix appeared with a gloomy face. Looking at Weaver's corpse, his eyes flashed with endless horror and despair. Scarlet Hand Blitz's anger could completely destroy the whole Fernandro Principality. "Young Master! Damn it, you actually dared to kill the young master. I'll fight you to the death." The complexions of the 4 guards next to Weaver suddenly became extremely pale, and bursts of life force comparable to that of a level 3 apprentice warlock erupted from their bodies. They silently recited incantations and prepared to cast spells. Yang Feng gave a faint smile and ordered, "Lanes, get rid of them. In other words, your Fernandro family wants to be enemies with our Steel City. What Bloody Hands Blitz can do, our Steel City can also do." Lamix quivered, and at once erupted with the terrifying life force of a level 2 warlock. With a point of his hand, 4 gray radiances at once hit the 4 guards. In a split second, the 4 guards withered, their life force completely disappeared, and turned into 4 mummies. Lamix had a bitter expression on his face, and gave a long sigh. "Yang Feng, you were too impulsive." Although Weaver was arrogant and despotic, but he was a blood relative of Bloody Hands Blitz. Now that he was killed by Yang Feng in public, Blitz would never let Yang Feng off. Even Fernandro Principality would be implicated. Yang Feng said with a slight smile, "Lanx, I need your help. Kill all of Weaver's guards, and then return their corpses to Blitz. I think that in the face of humanity's life and death, he should put the overall situation above all else and bear with it. My subordinates are rather bellicose. If you don't do as I say, then my subordinates might be very dissatisfied. If a riot breaks out, then I won't be able to stop them from acting on their own." Lamix felt a slight chill in his heart, and gave a bitter smile. He knew that he was now faced with a dilemma. Yang Feng was forcing him to make a choice, either choose to join Steel City, or choose to remain loyal to Warlock College Antalya. If Fernandro family continued to remain loyal to Warlock College Antalya, then the mechanized infantry division stationed in Nerona City might immediately turn around and massacre all of Fernandro family in Nerona City. Lamix hesitated for a moment, and then clenched his teeth and said, "Yang Feng, there's a great warlock over there." Great warlocks were the pinnacle and most powerful existences in Tyrannid subcontinent. A great warlock alone could destroy a small principality like Fernandro Principality. A force with a great warlock rank expert overseeing it and one without a great warlock rank expert overseeing it couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. Yang Feng said with a slight smile, "Our Steel City also has a secret weapon that can contend against great warlocks." Lamix was secretly alarmed, and his eyes flashed with a touch of determination. He clenched his teeth and said, "All right, I'll do as you say." Blitz's threat was in the future, while Yang Feng's threat was in front of him. The mechanized infantry divisions from Steel City weren't existences that Fernandro family could contend against. Lamix could only make such a choice. Before long, an army led by a level 1 warlock killed their way into the hotel where Weaver and his entourage were staying, and killed all of Weaver's guards. A few days later, Weaver's corpse was sent to St. Colin City. After seeing Weaver's corpse, the entire St. Colin City was shrouded in a tremendous anger. St. Colin City's Elder Conference Hall, that huge space that could accommodate thousands of people, was already filled with people. Following the outbreak of the Holy War between the allied forces of the underworld's races and the humans, those warlocks who were traveling outside in search of opportunities and all kinds of ancient relics had already returned to Warlock College Antalya. Scarlet Hands Blitz sat on the seat of honor, and beside him sat several tens of formidable level 3 warlocks with faint traces of terrifying fluctuations of power. Chapter 129. Blitz's expression was gloomy as he said unhurriedly, "Today, I called everyone here to announce a piece of news. My nephew, the kind, courageous and humble Weaver, was publicly killed in Fernandro Principality. The one who killed him was Steel City's City Lord's only nephew, Yang Feng." In the meeting hall, there were gloating, ridiculing, watching a good show, angry and other complicated gazes that fell on Blitz. Everyone present was very clear about what kind of person Weaver was. Weaver was Blitz's younger brother's only son. His parents died early. Blitz treated him as his own son and loved him even more than his own son. However, Blitz was busy dealing with Warlock College Antalya's various affairs and still had to practice cultivation, therefore he didn't manage Weaver too much. This gave him the temperament of a hedonistic overlord. God knows how many women were abandoned after being toyed with by him. If Weaver wasn't Blitz's nephew, then he would have been killed long ago. He was extremely daring, even many of the warlocks in the Council of Elders were harassed by him. Many of the warlocks in the Council of Elders secretly applauded his death, but none of them expressed it. Marvin, one of Blitz's confidants, had an indignant expression as he shouted, "Truly too daring." That Yang Feng actually relied on Steel City's power to kill people in public. This heinous crime should be put on the most severe trial. I suggest that we dispatch the Black Department to capture the Steel Lord and Yang Feng, and put them on trial in public. That's right. Such a sinner should be put on trial. Let them come to Warlock College Antalya to apologize. In the Council of Elders, nearly 1/3 of the elders echoed one after another. Warlock College Antalya's great warlocks were basically busy practicing cultivation. As the butler, Blitz had also roped in a lot of confidants these past few years. The level 3 warlocks capable of contending against Blitz had bored and indifferent expressions as they watched all of this, their minds wandering, not knowing what they were thinking. As long as it didn't involve their core interests, then they basically didn't care about Blitz's actions. The majority of level 3 warlocks pursued to upgrade their knowledge and strength. Once they were able to promote to great warlocks, then their status and power would receive a huge upgrade. At that time, a level 3 warlock like Blitz would be nothing. Apart from Blood Meridian warlocks, the majority of level 3 warlocks only had a lifespan of 400 to 500 years. They were all looking for elixirs that could prolong their lifespans or researching methods to break through and promote to a great warlock. They were basically research maniacs. But Black Dragon Empire's Blood Meridian warlocks had a long lifespan, and their cultivation was also a lot easier than that of Orthodox warlocks. Only then would they take the initiative to participate in the secular world and enjoy the sweetness of power and all the good things in the secular world. It was precisely because of the different lifespans of the warlocks of the two great warlock groups as well as the different philosophies between the two sides that two different ways of ruling were formed. A handsome young man, who appeared to be about 25 or 26 years old, with two small strokes of mustache at the corners of his mouth, said with a smile, I heard that Steel City's Mechanized Infantry Division had just defeated the Snake Demon Legion commanded by Magic Snake Princess Illyria. Blitz, is this information true? Blitz's face twitched as if he had been slapped. He said in a gloomy voice, "Chooks, this information is true." The Council of Elders immediately sunk into silence. Many of the elders' eyes flashed with a touch of a peculiar glint. Magic Snake Princess Illyria was a peak expert of Snake Demon Clan. In Warlock College Antalya, apart from the few great warlocks, no one dared to say that they were her match. For such an expert to be defeated by Steel City's Mechanized Infantry Division, then Steel City's strength could very well be imagined. Under normal circumstances, no one would be willing to casually make an enemy of such a formidable force, especially when it was a holy war between the humans and the allied forces of the underworld's races. Chooks said with a slight smile, "I have no objection to Blitz's proposal. However, my direct subordinate troop, Dark Demonic Leopard, won't be participating in this operation." Another man with a petite stature, resembling a human skeleton, and exuding a negative force field, Art also said coldly in a hoarse voice, "My hands of death also won't be dispatched. Blitz, if you want to dispatch the secret department, then dispatch your dark scarlet hands." Blitz's complexion at once became somewhat unsightly. Warlock College Antalya's secret department was a formidable warlock assassination group. The secret department was divided into three great factions, namely Dark Scarlet Hands, Hands of Death and Dark Demonic Leopard. If these three great factions joined hands, then they had even successfully assassinated two hostile great warlocks in Warlock College Antalya. The reason why Blitz convened the Council of Elders was to form a final decision and have the secret department's three great forces join hands to deal with Steel City. But Chooks and Arte weren't interested in using their direct subordinate troops to pay for Blitz's personal grudges. Blitz suddenly revealed a trace of a smile and said faintly, "Steel Lord Yang Yi is said to have obtained 6th Warlock Dynasty's inheritance. Only then was he able to rapidly develop and create a huge mechanical golem legion. If my men were to accidentally kill him, then that would be such a pity." Chooks and Arte's complexions suddenly changed when they heard that. Chucks quickly changed his expression and smiled. "Ahem. I think since the Council of Elders has passed the resolution, then my Dark Demonic Leopard should also advance and retreat together with the Dark Scarlet Hands." Arte said coldly, "Hands of Death also want to participate." Only then did Blitz reveal a trace of a complacent smile. For Blitz to be able to preside over Warlock College Antalya's daily affairs proved that he was a very intelligent person. Blitz couldn't swallow the secrets of 6th Warlock Dynasty by himself. If he didn't share some of the profits, then once those great warlocks became suspicious, then he would face a calamity. Within Xianxia Principality's territory. Boom, boom, boom. Along with earth-shattering explosions, 6 Falcon heavy-duty assault helicopters directly self-destructed. The terrifying explosions were accompanied by all kinds of components splashing in all directions. The demonic snake Princess Illyria, riddled with scars, flew out from the explosions and fell on the ground. She spat out a mouthful of blood and gasped for breath. Emma arrived beside Illyria and said with a worried expression, "Darren, this won't do. If this goes on, then our legion will be wiped out." Illyria looked at the Snake Demon Legion's elite troops that were left with less than 1,000 members. She felt extremely pained and cursed. "A bunch of fucking mad dogs, they're actually biting so hard." The Mechanical Legion dispatched by Yang Feng had been pursuing the remnants of Illyria's Snake Demon Legion, directly killing their way from Fernandro Principality to Xianxia Principality. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.